Hello, I'm Stuart Newton. I'm the VP of Corporate Strategy at Ineoquest Technologies. I'm here today at the Big Data Seminar, and I'm going to be talking about how operators can bridge the data silos to more effectively monetize multi-screen video and provide better customer experience management. Pleasure to be here today. My name's Stuart Newton, as Mark said. I run corporate strategy for Ineoquest. I spend a lot of time talking to operators around the world, listen to the challenges they have in delivering video, especially multi-screen video. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. If you don't know Ineoquest does video service assurance and analytics, and we work with approximately 600 companies around the world. Those companies include video service providers, systems integrators, and equipment providers who are responsible for delivering the video services, TV services to your home or to your iPhone, Xbox, iPad, whatever it is that you choose to watch video on. In a lot of those discussions that we've had over the last few years, one of the big issues, one of the big themes that's come up a lot with the operators is the issue of data silos and the fact that you can collect a lot of video analytics into data silos, and bear in mind that we're not actually delivering the video, we're just collecting analytics on how well the video is being delivered and who's watching what, where, when, on which kind of device and that kind of thing. But the big challenge is, even if you can collect that data, a lot of it's going into silos and you can't correlate that data. We're going to talk a little bit about that today. But I'm also going to give a little bit of a training course on how video is delivered today. So a brief look at IPTV history is going to be the first thing we'll do. It's worth looking back in the past and seeing what happened in the early days of IPTV and then comparing that to what's happening with multiscreen today. We're going to look at video delivery challenges for multiscreen, anywhere, anytime content. I do want to have a quick look at video customer experience management and some of the trends that we're seeing in the industry, some of the aspirations that are coming from the operators and how we're going to look to meet some of those aspirations. How we gain actionable insight and knowledge, but not only through Ineoquest, but by working with partners and working towards a common language for video quality or a common currency for video quality, which is absolutely what's needed moving forward. So if we look back at the origins of IPTV, when I started at Ineoquest about 8 years ago now, IPTV was brand new. Everybody was looking at delivering video over IP. And this is really what we faced. There were a lot of cable video providers who were starting to embrace IP networks to deliver video. There were a lot of telcos that were looking to embrace video. The cable companies didn't know really much at all about IP networking. The telecommunications companies knew a lot about IP networking, but almost nothing about video. And there was this complete clash really going on in the industry. And we were having to educate both sides about what video over IP looked like and what you needed to look for. But the bottom line is, when this started to happen, the network guys blamed the head-end guys. They were creating the video content. The head-end guys said, no, it's not our problem, it must be down at the edge. And everybody did the finger pointing to blame other people in the end-to-end chain. All the data was in data silos. There was no common format coming out of the networking team and the head-end team and the edge team and the retail team and everything else. And it was just a complete mess. And over, I'd say about a 4 or 5 year period, companies started to realize that they needed to fix this, and it took a long time. They needed to get these divisions working together. They needed to put people in charge of these video services as an end-to-end perspective and bang their heads together, the people in these divisions, and say, stop arguing, stop finger pointing, you've got to work together. And the reason Ineoquest exists is because we were able to provide technology that covered this entire end-to-end chain of video delivery for cable operators and IPTV providers, and provide that common currency of quality that allowed people to do this, allowed the operations teams to see how the video was being delivered, and if it was going wrong, where it was going wrong. The SCTE also produced a set of SCTE 168 recommended practices after about 4 or 5 years of us doing this, which was a collaboration across the industry of recommended practices of how you monitor video end to end. But if we wind this on to today, the top line on this diagram actually represents that diagram I just showed, so the top line here would be an IPTV or a cable video provider. This is a functional diagram. It's clearly not to scale because the third-party CDN there at the bottom could be somebody like Akamai or Level 3, where they are potentially global CDNs or national CDNs. The mobile operators, the mobile bubble there would be national mobile operators. But what we're doing here is providing a functional view of how video is delivered. So traditional IPTV would go along the top there. we pretty much got that under control, working with the industry and organizations like the SCTE in terms of correlating the end-to-end view. And then adaptive video came along, streaming to multi-screen devices, iPads, iPhones, Android devices, whatever it is. And that video typically goes down to the left there on that diagram to an adaptive bitrate head end where it's transcoded into multiple bit rates, so you can, so the devices when they request the video can adjust the bit rate they're asking for, and you get huge amounts of video created in multiple different bit rates, packaged in all different formats for being delivered to iPhones and Android tablets and whatever it is, whether it's using HTTP live streaming, smooth streaming, whatever the different protocol is, and they go across traditional CDN architectures because you can use HTTP to deliver the video. So this is all okay, but the real challenge here is that we went from walled garden monitoring and capability and everybody unified and paddling in the same direction to anarchy again, right? The analytics coming out of all these different parts, from the adaptive head end, the CDN operators, the mobile operators, the Wi-Fi cloud operators, is all up in the air again. It's a completely mixed bag of technologies, lots of data silos, uncorrelated data sources, huge amounts of technological innovation coming along. Not only is video growing in volume, but you've got Ultra HD, you've got new adaptive streaming protocols coming along, you've got the whole move to NFV and SDN mixed in there as well. I've never seen such a huge amount of technological innovation going on at a time when operators are trying to cope with delivering video across all of these architectures. And the net result is lack of control creates churn, you get customer experience management problems. You get Mr. Angry or Mrs. Angry on the end of the phone, lots of people phoning up and complaining. Who gets the blame? Is it the mobile operator? Is it the ISP? Is it the content provider? Nobody quite knows who to blame anymore. So they sit and just get more and more agitated. And there's way too much of this going on. Ineoquest is getting called in almost every week now into content provider to help content providers figure out where their video is going wrong, because they're producing the video out their head end, it's going out to a third-party CDN, it's going out via mobile operators and ISPs, and nobody can see what's happening anymore and figure out what's happening, and what's happening with the video and what the root cause is for the video going wrong. So let's have a look at a couple of other dynamics that are going on. We've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years going to customer experience management conferences. We're actively involved in the ETSI NFV activities. I spent a lot of time talking to systems integrators about the future of software-defined networking as well. But the bottom line is a lot of the CEM discussions are around things like Net Promoter Score, or whether Net Promoter Score needs to evolve into customer effort kind of score as a better way of getting the customer expectation, the customer experience up. But what I hear from these conferences is you've got to decrease churn and increase the loyalty to brand. You need to map the customer journey in real time and historically, and you need to be able to do it in real time. So if you can see that the customer's got an issue, and you could potentially detect that that's a VIP, a very important customer, or it's a high revenue customer in real time, then you can choose whether to put a focus on that or not. And provide for dynamic contact with the customer. I'm talking about some people about whether we could detect this in real time, and if that's a VIP customer, whether you could dynamically send them a message to say, really sorry you've got a problem with your video at this point in time, here's a coupon or a voucher, or you're not going to pay for this video asset, we're fixing the problem. Right? Try and completely shortcut that customer phone and customer support in the first place and being very proactive about it, and by that way increasing your Net Promoter Score. In parallel with that, we've got NFV and SDN. And NFV, the ability to dynamically, either statically or dynamically spin up resources for advanced service monetization, so you can get the rapid spin-up customers, and you can get the rapid takedown customers that only want services for short amounts of time, or because you've got a surge, from our perspective, a surge in video, and you need to spin up more caching nodes, and you need to be able to also monitor the traffic that goes along with those caching nodes, or whatever it is. And then using SDN to be able to dynamically steer traffic to those new virtualized network functions. All of this, every presentation I hear about this says you need real-time analytics to be able to do this kind of capability. And this is all happening at the same time, which is horrendously complex. So, very little big data analysis is real-time today. This is what I'm hearing from conferences and from operators we're speaking to. Too many silos, too many formats, lack of common language, especially on the quality side, lack of a common currency for quality, effectively. Big shortage of data scientists, but even if you can get the data scientists, very few of them have any knowledge about video at all, especially correlating different formats of video coming from different silos. Operation and behavioral data needs to be leveraged in combination in real time to do really effective customer experience management. You need unified analytics across multiple delivery networks, that whole diagram I put up a moment ago, and there's a lot more video to come. So you need really cost-effective data processing. You need to be able to be using high performance but more expensive databases for the real-time aspects, and then use more cost-effective databases for the historical trending and performance profiling, that kind of thing. Excuse me. So how do we achieve the independent, actionable insight? As I say, the video can come in either on the head end on the top left there, and that would be a typical operator head end, and they would send it out via their IPTV or cable network. They may send it off to an adaptive bitrate head end and then send it out via their own CDN or third-party CDNs, and that will then go out via some kind of access network to the end user, whatever they're watching on. The content providers today, we talk to a lot of content providers now that want to go direct to consumer. They're the second arrow down there on the left-hand side where it says content in. They're feeding straight into adaptive head ends across multiple third-party CDNs and out across the access networks and to the consumers. Every one of those green arrows is an operational analytics point where we can tap into the network effectively and see how well the video is being delivered at that point in the network. And by tapping into all these points, we can do root cause analysis, and we can see exactly where the video is going wrong on a per-channel basis and help to resolve that in real time. Now, the big challenge for us, and the first data silo that we had to cover over the last few years, is the move to adaptive streaming and the fact that you've got MPEG transport streams over IP for IPTV and cable video at the top end. But then when you go over CDNs, you've got an entirely different infrastructure for delivering video, which is based on HTTP traffic. And they speak almost a completely different language in that space. So we had to come up with a way of bridging the operational analytics so you could have, so the large-scale operators that have this entire map can see operationally what's going on their linear TV, the traditional side, but also on the adaptive streaming side. And every one of those green arrows is there because at some point in time over the last 8 years, somebody's asked us to resolve an issue at that point in the network. And now moving forward, as part of the whole encompassing NFV, all of these tap points can either be appliance-based probes that you put onto an optical tap or another method in the network, or they could be NFV-based implementations. But that's what most people know Ineoquest for. But over the last 3 years, we've also been adding in behavioral analytics, and that's where these purple arrows come in, which is the ability to look at the individual streams being sent out, because adaptive streaming uses individual streams. So we can now look at these tap points in the network, and we can see who's watching what, where, when, on which kind of device, what the spin-up time was, how well is the video being delivered while they're watching it, did they abandon the assets, and then the really powerful thing that we're aiming to do to meet some of the aspirations of the customer experience management is to be able to tie these two together. So if you know you've got a big operational issue with the video delivery, you can make a call across into the behavioral system and say, how many customers were affected? And then you can start doing your clever algorithm calculations on the back of that to see, you start trending potentially in real time what the net impact of this fault is versus this fault in the network. Conversely, if you get a lot of behavioral data that says there's a lot of issues, a lot of people abandoning these particular assets, it'd be really nice to be able to make a call back across in real time and say, what's potentially the root cause of this? Where do we need to put the energy? How do we need to fix this? And this really can't be done today. So this is brand new, and what we're trying to do is bridge the operational and the behavioral so the operations teams can do this much more effectively and keep those customers happy. So there's bridging across these networks, there's bridging the operational and behavioral, and the third one is how do you handle roaming? And the real challenge is, and what most people don't realize, is that if you're watching a video on an Xbox in your home or a PS3 in your home, and then you decide to walk out the house and you go and start carrying on watching it on a mobile infrastructure, that video stream in your home may be coming via the top path down there or via the ABR source and via the middle CDN there, which is the operator CDN. As soon as you go out the house, it's probably being thrown off halfway around the world via a third-party CDN that's going to come back in via the mobile infrastructure instead. It's incredibly difficult to track the path of the video unless you can see where it is and what's happening. So from an operator perspective, even if they own all of this infrastructure, as soon as somebody roams onto a network that is not owned by that operator, they lose visibility. Right? They may be able to see the head end and they may be able to see the end device now, but they've lost track of the mobile network because it's not their mobile network anymore, or somebody's wandered into a different house where they don't have control over the broadband connection. So the behavioral analytics system that we've done here has the ability to bridge the device side and the network side. We actually took a step back and redesigned this a couple of years ago. We had siloed data on the device side and on the network side, and after talking to the operators, we decided we needed to go away, redesign this, and unify it. So what this does, it allows you to provide a unified map of behavioral data as people are watching live streaming of video or video on demand assets, and if they roam into a network that you don't have control over anymore, you still get the data from the device instrumentation, from the player instrumentation coming up into this system. When they come back onto your network, you get the best of both worlds because you can get data from within your network and from the device, and you can do some really advanced correlation and analytics to be able to really pinpoint if there are any issues or what's going on with that user from the behavioral perspective. And at the bottom there, you can see just a few examples, different device types, different stream types, top 25 trending assets. Where we're heading with this is the ability to be able to say, what if you could put the top 25 affected VIPs right at this point in time? That kind of thing. Really boil this down in real time and figure out how you can focus on the people that are generating the revenue and let everybody else on the back end who isn't generating revenue just benefit from the cascade effect of fixing those problems. At the moment, it's just this wall of things you've got to fix across your entire user base. If you could focus on those VIPs and fix that first, then the others will get the benefit, but you get to protect your revenue stream a bit better. Okay? So there's a lot of things that we're doing here. We're bridging across the traditional linear and the adaptive streaming for multi-screen devices. As I said, we're trying to bridge across the operational and the behavioral at the request of some of the operators I've been speaking to. And then we are unifying the behavioral and the network analytics so you can do much more advanced tracking of customers as they move across the different networks. But we can't do this by ourselves, and video is only one piece of the pie. Okay, there's a lot more to customer experience management than just tracking video and looking at the analytics of how well that's being delivered. So we can provide a lot of this data in real time. A lot of the challenge that we've had is that there's no one really on the top end to receive that data and do all that extra processing, figure out how to unify it to what's going on in the voice and the data world, or look at dynamically into the billing systems and see how we can, is that a really important customer and what can we do about that? So the great thing is that we can bridge across at a certain level, but we need other partners to be able to bridge across above that. And one of the partners we were working with, and we had a demonstration at TM Forum this year, which was only a few weeks ago, was Anritsu. And Anritsu are working with us in the mobile space and across the device analytics. And Anritsu are able to take our information, either real-time or historically, up into their eoSight system and then provide actionable insights against that data, but map it to what else they're seeing across from the infrastructure, from the voice and data world, and also link it into billing systems and different areas like that. It's early days for this. We've only just announced it. It's an initial integration, but it's really exciting that the thought of being able to take this into operators and say, look, you haven't got to do a lot of this work anymore. We can help unify all this, and we can help bridge this. And you know, these recruitment issues you've got, the issues about data going stale, we can really start to help solve some of this. So providing real-time correlation across all services is another thing I was hearing. We've been told that we need to work in partnership with other vendors that are doing the voice and the data side as well, and this is great, and Anritsu were a great partner to start this with. So, lastly, as an operator, you may own most of the parts of this network. However, as a content provider, and we're starting to work with a lot of content providers now who want to go directly to consumers. They want to go directly out to the iPads and the iPhones in the world. The content providers are coming to us and saying, we're sending this data out, but it's going via third-party CDNs or other networks. It's going out via all these different access networks that we have no control over whatsoever, and it's not getting to the consumer properly. We know it's not getting to the consumer properly because we're getting data from the players, but the mobile operators and the access and the ISPs tell us it's not their fault. The CDNs are providing us with bucket loads of data, but it doesn't actually tell us that anything's wrong. We really can't figure this out. So those two arrows in the middle there, just between that bubble where it says network and access, there's the green and purple arrows there, are it's a cloud testing service that we launched last year to be able to create a demarcation point after the CDN. And we did this specifically to try and help some of these operators who were having all these finger pointing problems and no one can figure out where this was going wrong. So we can actually pull the streams from the CDNs in the cloud and actually analyze how well they're being delivered just downstream of the CDN in a particular geography. Okay, that allows us to create some demarcation and do that. But that's really us policing the system. Right? That's something that we've done very well in the past. We would much rather work with the other players in the end-to-end chain to provide unified analytics so we can work together to meet the content providers' objectives of delivering a great service for their video content. So we're starting to build out more relationships. We're talking to some of the CDN providers. We're working closely with Intel and the Network Builders Program and companies like ACS to see if we can put monitoring further out into the mobile infrastructures and out into the RANs. And we're building out various partnerships. These are 3 that we've announced this year. Verimatrix do a lot of conditional access for video across the whole multi-screen arena. So we're working closely with Verimatrix to see if we can tie in more of the analytics and make sure that we can also bring in some of the conditional access analytics to figure out how well that's working, make sure there's not a problem with decryption or getting access to the content. Anritsu I've already mentioned as a higher level umbrella system for looking at voice and data and other aspects as well as the video. Visualon, a player company that many of the operators today are using. There's several others out there that we're working with as well. These are the 3 that have been announced at this point in time. And really our goal is to take the operator's wish and the content provider's wish of unifying a lot of these analytics across this end-to-end chain and try and do the same thing for multi-screen video delivery that the industry was able to do for the linear video delivery with the SCT recommended practices and banging heads together and getting everybody to work together. And there's a way to go with this. When we launched the behavioral analytics solution last year, we thought everybody would be saying, that's great, we can get all this data and we can monetize it. In reality, what everybody said to us was, yeah, that behavioral stuff, great, but at the moment we can't even deliver the video in the first place. So we need the QoS capability. You've got the quality of service, the service assurance part first, and then when we've got that right, we'll start trying to monetize the data on the back end with the behavioral data. We've got both now. It's not, we're happy to work with operators on either side of that, but we're really trying to encourage some of the other players in this end-to-end chain to work with us so we can provide this currency of quality across the end-to-end chain. But it's a big task, and we're making progress. So, in conclusion, the move to video customer experience management and video-related SDN is driving the need for advanced core analytics across multiple planes, right? End-to-end, across multiple networks, and across multiple services. To do that, we've got to bridge multiple data silos, political and technical. Many of you will be very aware of political challenges in terms of bridging data silos. Technologically, we are trying to do everything that we can to try and bridge across those data silos so the operators don't have to try and hire big data guys and figure out how to handle video. We'll do as much as we can before we pass it upstream, but there's a lot more to do upstream. We'll just try and take some of that load. OSS and BSS for advanced behavioral analysis and monetization. Linking those 2 worlds is going to be very powerful for advanced customer experience management and really focusing on the revenue. I think for me a bigger part of this is being able to really focus in those VIPs and those high ARPU customers, make sure they're good and the rest of the customers will feel the benefit. But it feels less like a scattergun approach if you can start doing that. And real-time and historical for advanced video CEM. We're going to need to really start partitioning this out, especially to meet the needs of real-time CEM and NFV and SDN with the high-performance databases for the real-time stuff and the more cost-effective databases for the longer-term, analytics, profiling, figuring out who we can target with advertising and new services and that kind of thing. But we're going to have to think about this in a different way. And the video volume and complexity is increasing dramatically. Ecosystem collaboration is absolutely essential. We're trying to build out these alliances with key players in the industry as fast as we can. I'll open it up today to say we'd love to talk to more operators about their operational behavioral requirements. What we have today isn't set in stone, it's an evolving solution, and we would love to get more input from yourselves to make sure that we're heading the right way to meet your objectives as well. So, with that, I will say thank you very much. I hope that was useful.